Good morning.
The Supreme Court is the Supreme Court. What the Supreme Court says represents the law. We respect it. We go by it. There is no other way. We had hoped that it would come our way, but it has gone the other way. It simply means that we have to go back to the High Court and get done with this quickly. We still have hope. We're not in despair.
By the grace of God,
yes, so
victory is assured.
Yes,
at the end of the day.
We will lose a little time. We still have to go back. That's all it means. But I'm very consoled by what the Supreme Court said, that he ought not to have been treated the way he was treated. His bail ought not to have been revoked. His home ought to have been invaded. All that is a consolation to us. So we have hope. Thank you very much.
Well, if in recent times you're listening to the commentaries of most Nigerians, there is now a process of judicial rascality. Because if the Supreme Court condemns all the processes, especially the rendition that brought him back to Nigeria, and you're not asking that he goes back to the Federal High Court for the trial to start, I feel it's a lot of injustice. It's a lot of injustice in all forms of jurisprudence. So all I will say that we just leave it in the hands of God at the end of the day. How can somebody, it's difficult to make a comment, because when you listen to the judgment when it started, it was clear that they accepted the illegality committed by the federal government of Nigeria in all aspects of it. And yet you went on to this, to remove the judgment of the appeal courts because of lack of jurisdiction, which they learned about the lower court. I don't think that is fairness in any consideration, but they say that they are final because it's the Supreme Court. They are also infallible because it is the final court of the land. So we'll go back to the Federal High Court and hopefully we'll probably request that a bail is granted at that level. So for me, it's a win-win affair. At least something has seriously started, and I hope that the process at the Federal High Court will be, that will be expedited so that the young man can come and be useful to society. But the only unfortunate thing is that the insecurity in Nigeria, and especially in the southeast, will be worsened off because people don't believe what is happening in this country anymore. So if the Supreme Court of Nigeria is not even looking at the implications of what is going on, Boko Haram is on, bandits are on, IPOB is on. So where is the country that we're all looking forward to? May God bless this country. Thank you very much.
Your name for the camera, sir. For those who do not know, sir.
Sorry?
For those who do not know, your name for the camera, sir. Your name.
I'm Chief Dan Olasi. I'm Chief Dan Olasi, and an Igbo small statesman.
The 3rd December, for us in the opposition lawmakers and opposition political parties who I speak for, this judgment today is very shocking to us because we missed an opportunity to lay the foundation and path for political resolutions of these issues. And it's so painful that the eminent jurists understood the issues, but in their conclusion decided to arrive at something that is still worrisome to us. And what is that? The Supreme Court agrees today that the extraordinary rendition of Nnamdi Kanu from Kenya is illegal. That is the first victory that was recorded today. Then the Supreme Court also said today that the invasion of his house by the security agencies that led to killings and the man running to safety is also illegal. These are the foundations. And then the Supreme Court also goes further to say that the revocation of his bail ought not to have happened, thereby saying that he's supposed to be enjoying the freedom, which is the very foundation of this struggle up to Supreme Court. So now what happened? If the Supreme Court agrees that the extraordinary rendition from Kenya is illegal, and the Supreme Court agreed today that the invasion of his house is illegal, and and the Supreme Court agreed today that he ought not to have been declared bail, then why is Nnamdi Kanu still in DSS custody today? The Supreme Court should have not only freed him, but lampooned those who committed those atrocities.
Yes.
And when they talk about some of these conventions that were cited by lawyers of Nnamdi Kanu are not national laws, I disagree. You know the extradition treaty that was signed by Malami, the Attorney General.
Yes.
That treaty, that act, condemned extraordinary rendition. So it's there in the law. Even as elementary law students, we are told method of forming laws, conventions, inclusive as well. So if you have international conventions that have been codified and ratified, they immediately becomes law. Like African Charter on Human Rights and so on and so forth will cite. These are laws. So why are you saying that we did not sign national law? National laws were cited. So for whatever reason, like I said, they are remitting back to the federal High Court. We strongly believe that the first thing to do is to grant bail to Nnamdi Kanu. Let's go back to the foundation. It's to grant him bail. But let me also appeal to the president. I'm not saying he should interfere in judicial matters. But there is need for us to find a middle ground to bring peace to Southeast. Many things has gone wrong in the East. Is it that Nigerians don't feel for the destruction going on in the Southeast? Businesses are being burned to the ground. People are being killed. All sorts of criminal activities is going. Even security agencies are also being killed. And whenever anybody is killed in the East, they call it unknown gunmen. Don't we want, timely resolution of these issues? And we said that the first foundation is to grant Nnamdi Kanu unconditional bail, and then we'll commence that process of reconciliation and harmonization of these issues. People in the East are human beings. Everybody was expecting that this Christmas was going to be the first beginning of returning peace to the Southeast, because people were expecting, people were warming up for it. And then a few days to Christmas, the Supreme Court agrees that his arrest was illegal, that the rendition was illegal, that the invasion of his house was illegal, but he should remain in DSS custody. That's why I say it's a sad December. It's very painful. And I'm appealing. The president still have powers under the Constitution. You see, all these things we are going from Federal High Court to Appeal Court to Supreme Court still have a political solutions to it under the Constitution. Well. Under the Constitution, the president has powers to issue knowledge.
Yes,
that power is constitutional. So I'm appealing to the president that despite whatever has happened today in Supreme Court, thank God that the Supreme Court have ruled that the rendition from Kenya of Nnamdi Kanu is illegal. And thank God that the Supreme Court has also ruled today that the invasion of his house in Omahia was also illegal. And also, the Supreme Court has also agreed that he ought not have been denied his bail. Despite the final conclusion of not granting him bail today, the president, riding on this extract from the ruling of the Supreme Court today, can, as the father of the nation, issue a broadcast and then issue knowledge, discontinue the trial and grant him unconditional bail and commence the process for political and political solutions to the matter. So that at the end of the day, every part of Nigeria can come together on that principle of justice, equity, and fairness. So it's not we didn't lose anything today. But it's also surprising that the final conclusion we were expecting was not made. But it's also victory for us that the Supreme Court agrees that the rendition from Kenya was illegal, and that the invasion of his house in Omahia is also illegal, and that he ought not to have been denied his bail. So it is victory for all of us who love democracy, justice, and fairness, despite that the fact that the Supreme Court have also refused releasing him by allowing the appeal by the federal government. But the president still have a role to play. That's why we're appealing to the president to exercise his constitutional power. Going by the extract from this positive extract from the judgment of the Supreme Court today is to issue knowledge and discontinue the trial and initiate the process for political resolution. Anybody that is telling you that the path to peace is endless incarceration of Nnamdi Kanu is deceiving you.
Yes.
That person is enjoying the crisis, the killing and destruction in the East. Let's find a way. The president has been a Democrat, advocated for justice, equity, and fairness. Even in Nedeko, issues of Nedeko all about issues of constitutional rights, fairness, equity, and justice. This is what we have known the president over the years for. And we expect him, as somebody who has championed rule of law, as a Democrat, as a leading member of Nedeko, to understand the circumstances we're operating in today and use his presidential power and issue knowledge so that Nnamdi Kanu can go home. And we can now open the window and opportunity for final political resolution of this matter. Thank you.
Yeah. That's not the point that the court made. You saw that the court came very heavy on the security agencies, where they have in any way, impaired on the rights, the fundamental rights of the defendant. However, our laws have made very clear provision for remedy where there's such infraction on the right of the defendant, then you can such a defendant can go to the civil court and then seek for civil remedies for the violation of his fundamental rights. And that is why, of course, we have the fundamental rights enforcement, for which the defendant, the respondent, which is the defendant in this case, have actually activated. And you are aware that he has gone to the civil court and he has gotten some judgment, which is still subject of appeal, as to whether or not his fundamental rights have actually been infracted or infringed upon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. My name is D.E. Caswell. D.E. Caswell. D for David. D for David. D.E. Caswell.
Okay, and counsel to who are you representing?
I am counsel to the appellant, which is the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
How happy to react to
Okay. As you have all observed what happened today at the Supreme Court, if you ask me, I would say this is victory to administration of criminal justice, because it shows that once you are an accused person, once you are a defendant, no matter what excuse you want to bring to hide under the law to say that you should not be tried, the Supreme Court have expressly, unequivocally stated clearly that we don't have the legislation that will vitiate the court from trying a defendant that has committed a crime. You must be tried for every offense you have committed.
Exactly, sir. But does this not embolden the security agents? And how all you react to it?
Yes, my name is Right Honorable Obi Agocha, representing the good people of Ikuano, Umuahia South Federal Constituency of Abia State. I am the direct representative to Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. It's indeed a very sad day today. If you looked at the judgment, the court showed empathy in the way the rendition was conducted, the torture, the treatment meted out to Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. It's just a technical matter, just like the counsels for Mazi Nnamdi Kanu has stated. I'm sure they are going back to the drawing board, starting again from the High Court all the way to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is sympathetic to the plight of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, and I believe there's hope at the end of the tunnel. Thank you very much.